Good afternoon and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Providence Holy Cross Medical Center, Hestia Med Spa, and Comfort Keepers in Home Care. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Thomas Polucki.
on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And our first guest this morning is Sandy Weinberg of Henry Mayo Hospital. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm
How
so
are
honored to be
you?
here.
Yes, and what do you do at Henry Mayo?
I am the chaplain supervisor. I oversee a team of 4 chaplains and 4 volunteers in the spiritual care services department.
That's interesting. I didn't realize they had one.
Yes, absolutely. Henry Mayo definitely promotes spiritual care as part of patient care and experience.
Well, that explains why someone came to my bedside when I was in there. I've been in there a couple of times in the past year. And I remember someone coming in on both occasions.
Well,
So
I hope it was a
that's-
good experience.
It was. It was, but I was so surprised the first time it happened because I didn't realize that you had that there.
Yes, we do our best to be proactive in letting patients know that spiritual support is available. We don't impose and we don't assume anything, but we just want everybody to know that we value each person's need for maybe some spiritual or emotional support.
I think a lot of it has to do with emotion.
Yes.
Because being in a place like that where it's fine, I was well taken care of, but still you're in a hospital and everybody's sick. That's the sense that most people have, I think. When you're in the hospital, you're sick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And faith is powerful medicine.
Oh,
So, Sandra, you brought the No One Dies Alone program to Henry Mayo, so I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that if we can.
Absolutely.
what
So,
kind of program?
No One Dies Alone. So, obviously, I'm going to let Sandra explain that, but it's mostly volunteers
Yes.
who are at the bedside of people who wouldn't have any visitors
Exactly.
and who are in critical condition. And, you help give them support in their critical time of need, yes?
Yes.
So, did I just steal your thunder?
No, that's a great introduction
Okay, great.
to the No One Dies Alone program. And it's also known as NODA, N-O-D-A. And I am so thankful and so proud of Henry Mayo Hospital for bringing this nationwide end-of-life care program to our community. It's greatly needed, and I advocated for it last year, along with my chaplain colleagues and colleagues on the palliative care team. The palliative care team, they take care of patients who have life-limiting illnesses and are living, because patients are living longer with critical type of illnesses. So, so the program is volunteer-based, and it provides compassionate care and presence for patients who would otherwise die alone in the hospital.
That takes a special person.
Indeed.
So first of all, how did this all start? When did this start? Is it all faith-based? What are the working parts of this thing?
Well, let me tell you a little story that I will remember forever. I read it once, the history of No One Dies Alone. In 1986, a nurse had a patient who was actively dying, and he was scared. And he reached out his hand to her, and he asked her not to leave him. And her intention was to be with him. But she had other patients she had to tend to, and so she told her patient, "I'll be right back." And she was. But when she came back, he had died. So that haunted this nurse,
Oh, I can imagine.
right, for many
Oh,
years.
Mike.
Well, fast forward, her grief turned into something beautiful. In 2001, let's see, it was a hospital in Oregon, she started the No One Dies Alone program. And basically,
Gives me chills.
yes, gives opportunity for volunteers to come alongside, typically for 2 to 3 hour blocks of time. And they commit to just being with the patient at the bedside. It is not a faith based program. As the chaplain supervisor, I make sure to say that regularly because we don't want to exclude anybody who would want to serve but maybe would not identify as religious or spiritual. However, it is compassion driven. Mm-hmm. And I look at the foundation of NODA as compassion. And it holds up 3 pillars: the pillar of respect, dignity, and honor. As human beings, aren't these the things that we want, right? And so it's from that place that the NODA volunteers come to the patients to sit at their bedside with the hopes of offering a peaceful transition. I always want people to remember that even while people are dying, they are still living.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And they're living, we're living, we all want the same thing.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as amazing as that is for the patient, I can tell you from my experience, my mother ran an MICCU unit,
Mm-hmm.
and literally people were dying every day. I mean, that's just the nature of the business. But I can tell you there was not this back then, because she retired around the same time that that episode started back in '86. So the nurses dealt with this,
Yes.
and it was devastating. I mean, I could tell when, something happened. You can't not be affected by that, no matter what your professional training is.
That's right.
So, as great a service as this is to the patients, I'm sure that the staff of the hospital really appreciates it as well.
Absolutely, yes. In fact, when we made this hospital-wide announcement a few months ago, letting the staff know that this program was in the works and coming, the response from the nurses was amazing. They're just so thankful because they do get attached to their patients.
Yeah.
It's very distressing to them, and it's beautiful. I have witnessed nurses do everything they can to be present when there is not anyone with a patient who's dying. And so they're grateful when the chaplains come alongside, the social workers come alongside. And honestly, that's what inspired the program, was the need.
Sure.
When we recognized the need, we went to management. They gave us their blessing, and we started to put this program together.
So it is just starting at Henry Mayo, am I right?
Yes, as a matter of fact, tomorrow is when it officially launches. Tomorrow evening at 5:30, we have 12 people who are committed to come to the very first NODA volunteer training program. And at the end of that time together, they will be certified NODA volunteers. And if we get a call tomorrow at midnight and one of the nurses says, "Hey, do you have anybody?" We'll send out whoever's available in that time slot.
That's outstanding. I would imagine ideally there will be people running shifts at the hospital, though, because, I mean, if someone has to drive across town at midnight, they may be too late, yes?
Well, we're hoping that most of the volunteers, as of right now, all of the volunteers for the program live here in the Santa Clarita community. And that was one of the first things they would share with me is I live 5 minutes from the hospital.
Okay.
I would love to do this. And so that is ideal. If people lived any further than Santa Clarita, I would probably encourage them to reach out to a hospital that's closer to their community. Because there's enough to go around, and we definitely need volunteers.
Absolutely. So is this more common than we know about? You said that it started in Oregon like 2000 something?
2001.
2001. So is this nationwide? Are there training centers? Is this, are you going to be a training center? I know you have to train your volunteers, but how does this all work?
NODA is nationwide. There are hundreds of hospitals across the U.S. that actually have this program in place. If I can mention some local ones.
Sure.
The Antelope Valley Medical Center out in Lancaster, they have a dynamic NODA program. I know UCLA has one, Huntington Hospital in Pasadena. I would love to see the day where every hospital has this program. And you asked about the need for it. May I share patients who would be at risk of being a NODA patient?
Of course.
Well, first of all, there are the elderly who we have seen have outlived their family members. They've outlived their spouse. They don't have any relatives. They may have a caregiver. And so there's that group. Then there's the group of population that are homeless, including homeless veterans. And unfortunately, at Henry Mayo, and as in many hospitals, we see this. So people who are estranged from family members, they come in and they don't have any ID, things like that. And then lastly, there are the group of people who have a trauma. They experience a trauma while they are far from home. Like they're on a business trip, or maybe they're on vacation, especially where we're located here in Santa Clarita, right, with the 5 and the 14 freeway. Things happen. And so those patients might have family members, but they're not anywhere nearby where they would maybe be able to get to the person in time. What we decided to include, because we saw the need, are patients who do have family members, but the family members need a respite. They need a break.
Sure.
Because it's not like TV. People don't always die in 5 minutes.
Right.
It might be a day or a couple of days.
Especially when, in many households, if there is a couple, both the couple have to work at least full time, if not more than that, and take care of everything else as well. So to be with, let's say, a parent or something like that for more than a week at a time is unfortunately asking too much of most people anymore.
Yes. Just recently, we had a gentleman who was on comfort care at the hospital. And so he was dying slowly. And his wife and adult children were at his bedside day and night for maybe 3 days. And they were absolutely exhausted. They just were drained. We were concerned about them. And his wife said, I know I need to go home. I know I need to sleep, but I don't want to leave him alone.
Right.
And so we asked her, if somebody were here with him, would that help you? And it meant the world to her. She just actually recently called to thank us, because that is what gave her and her children just peace of mind, that they could go home and take a nap, that they could go home and take a shower, knowing that somebody was there. And in this case, it was a couple of the chaplains rotated, and we do have one trained NODA volunteer already. And so she was taking some shifts, and they just sort of sat for 2 hours and then handed off to the next person. So this is definitely done in community. This is not a service that one person does on their own.
Right. Well, that's the whole point. Having a network
Yes.
to rely on, instead of laying it all at the feet of either the hospital staff, who's there to try to keep people alive, not necessarily help them transition, and or the family, who, for all the reasons we just said, maybe just can't handle that responsibility.
Right, right.
So
Well, it was interesting because when my husband was in the hospital and he was in there for 5 weeks, and I stayed there all day. I would leave probably around 7:30 at night because I had cats to take care of
Yes.
at the time. And on a couple of occasions, the chaplain came in to see him and to see me and whoever of the family who was there. But that was just one person at that time.
Right.
And so with you having a group, it's going to make an enormous difference, an absolute enormous difference.
Yes, and
It really will, because that one person who came in to see Russ was seeing at least a dozen other, because he was on that floor where I don't know what they call the floor, but
intensive care, no?
intensive care.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that place was full.
Right.
And he even had them in the hallways, you know. And so they were busy. He was busy. And I'm so glad to hear that you have that, because that was so important. It was important to Russ, and it was important to me.
absolutely.
And it really makes a big difference, because my daughter was in the hallway, and of course I was crying, but the chaplain was in there, and he comforted me also, which really made a difference. So having several people available to do this, instead of one person having to go to 10 other people, wow.
Yes.
I think that's wonderful.
I'm so grateful to
Absolutely.
hear that you were comforted. We tell families their loved one is being taken care of well.
Yes.
All the attention is on the person in the bed. But we
That's true.
want families to know what you experienced, that they are not invisible. We see and we hear.
I experienced it for Russ. I mean, there was someone there on a constant basis. The nurses were unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And I didn't have to, felt like I didn't have to worry about him being taken care of. And it didn't used to be that way at that hospital.
Right.
It has really, really changed for the better.
I'm certainly honored to work with the nurses and doctors, the staff there. We're one team, and we do this together. And I see how it impacts the nurses, and so the chaplains are there for them too.
So I have
Oh, yeah.
2 quick questions. And we're running short, so try to answer them as briefly as possible. One, so this is volunteer. How do people volunteer?
The first thing they need to do is get an application. The application can be downloaded from the website, or they can come into the hospital and pick up a hard copy. They'll drop off the completed application for a woman named April Garcia. She oversees all of the chaplains all of the volunteers, and there are hundreds. She will arrange for an interview with them and will put them through an orientation. When that is complete, then April will refer the volunteer to me, and we'll get them through NODA training.
Awesome. Number 2, because, I'm a doctor too. How do you stay emotionally healthy dealing with death all the time?
All the time, yes. Thanks for asking. I practice spiritual disciplines that support my faith, like prayer and Bible reading. I play golf every weekend. I watch
you.
I Love
Good
Lucy
for
every
you.
day.
There you go.
Right? There's a reason they call me the Happy Chappie, and I think it's because I am intentional to practice self-care, and I encourage all of my staff to do the same.
And you're a positive person.
Work.
It's very obvious.
Oh, thank you.
Very obvious.
That is a gift that I
It takes
receive.
one to know one. You
Oh,
know.
I love that. I love that. Well, that's one of the gifts that I believe I receive from working with end-of-life care is gratitude for life. Life is a gift.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Sandra Weinberg, hospice chaplain at supervisor at Henry Mayo. The No One Dies Alone program starts tomorrow. Volunteers, just go over to Henry Mayo and submit an application. Thank you so much for your service and for being our guest here on the
Yes,
Senior Hour.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Always.
Yes. And you will come back and visit us again.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
I will indeed.
absolutely.
You're listening to the Senior Hour at KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220 and your hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Polucki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And our guest now is Dave Caldwell, and I'll let him explain what he does, but he's with Masters University.
Right.
Used to be a Masters College.
Correct.
Many, 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 many years ago.
And before that, L.A. Baptist College.
Yes, that's right, because I used to take classes over there. Oh, good heavens, I won't tell you how long ago. It gives my age away.
Well, I can say this, Barbara, that the school was formed in 1927. That was long before you showed up on campus.
Oh, yes.
Long before you showed up on campus. But it was L.A. Baptist College first, then Masters College, and now it's the Masters University.
University. It has really, really grown.
It has.
Oh, good heavens. And I can remember driving along Placerita Canyon and thinking, wow, this place is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And we continue to grow. We have had record applications for students to come to the university. We have had 3 years in a row now of record acceptance and admission into the university. And so it is continuing to grow and grow. And the demand for a liberal arts Christian university in our country has really grown, and it's really shown. And I think one of the things that really points out to us is that in the state of California, there are very few colleges and universities that have grown as much as we have, in terms of the demand for students, the program growth, all of those sorts of things. Yeah.
Well,
So-
I've been here since 1968. And I've seen it really, really just blossom. I mean, enormously. And now it's a university.
It's a full university.
Which is so exciting that City of Santa Clarita has a university.
Yes.
Not just a college, a university.
Undergraduate programs, graduate programs.
You
There's
name
a
it.
seminary as well that's involved with it. So yeah, it's really grown considerably.
Well, now, how did you get involved?
So, gosh, my story with Masters actually goes back quite a bit. So as Tom knows, I've been involved in sports here in Santa Clarita for, gosh, more than a quarter century, if I can say that. It goes way back into the 90s, but I've been calling games here in Santa Clarita all that time. And back around 98, 99, 2000, 2001, I was calling basketball games, baseball games over at Masters. Came here, KHTS, in 2003 to be a sports director here, and continued that on as well. But point being is that I came back in 2010 at Masters to continue to call games. Now it's being live streamed, and our live stream audience, quite frankly, is the largest in the conference that we're in. We get hundreds, over thousands of people who will be watching a basketball game, a volleyball game, and it's all live streamed through the computer. So I've been doing that since 2010, and then started in my current position as the sports information director this past August, and that means that I have responsibility full-time to oversee all of the information requirements for the 18 collegiate sports that we operate.
Whoa,
It's a
that's
lot.
quite a job.
It's a lot. It can be a lot.
Do you ever get to go home?
Well, I came here, so this is kind of a break for me, I guess.
Good heavens, do you live locally?
I've been in Santa Clarita for over 30 years now. We moved in 1990, so it's coming up on 33 years that I've lived in Santa Clarita. Almost as old as Tom Polucki is.
Yeah. Almost. So You're the information director for
Sports-
the sports
on the
division at Masters, and you just said 18,
Right.
18 different sports. What can we get a quick rundown of the events that are open and available now? You said they're all streaming, so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. How do people see this if they have a child or a grandchild at Masters? And they may know already, but people on the fringe may not. And then what programs are available for the public to either come to, be in the audience or participate in some way?
It's a great question, Tom. And there's a lot in there. So
Yeah.
first of all, we have everything from men's and women's soccer, men's and women's volleyball, men's and women's basketball, baseball, beach volleyball as well. And a lot of those programs, we're affiliated with the NAIA, the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. So us and NCAA, those are the two organizations that oversee sports. We have basketball games. The public is welcome to come. It costs $10 to come and to buy a ticket to come to a game. Men's and women's basketball, we've got that happening this Saturday against Vanguard University. 5:30 for the women, 7:30 for the men. Monday night, our men's volleyball team will be hosting Emmanuel College out of Georgia. They're going to be coming into town. The men's volleyball program will also be playing Pepperdine this Friday, but that will be down in Malibu. But what's kind of exciting is that we had Hawaii, the University of Hawaii, the two-time NCAA Division I national champions in men's volleyball, came to the MacArthur Center on the campus of the Masters University to play men's volleyball. Full house. It was an exhibition game.
Wow.
Masters won the game.
Nice.
Now, I'm going to be a caveat, because I'm looking at a sports guy over here too. The caveat is Hawaii had a split squad that day, so we didn't necessarily have their All-Americans or
Their A
All-World,
team,
their
yeah.
A team. But I'm telling you right now, the men's volleyball team, if you love volleyball, you really need to make it a point to go to our website, gomustangs.com, and look at the schedule for men's volleyball. We could very well be looking at a national championship this year in men's volleyball, and perhaps even have the player of the year. 6'10" Nolan Flexen is just a freshman, but against Hawaii, he was the dominant player on the floor. So it's exciting. The Stanford Cardinal is coming into Bross Courts to play men's volleyball early February. So that's what we're looking at. And Barbara, it's interesting because you were talking about how exciting it's been to see the growth of LA Baptist College, then it was Masters College, now the Masters University. And that's part of it as well on the athletic side. We're seeing a lot of growth and a lot of quality teams that in some cases want to play Masters in sports. But honestly, in some cases, they don't want to play Masters in sports because the perception is we're a small school, small university, and if a Hawaii comes into town and loses,
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh, ho, ho. Oh,
so there are some that say thanks, but no thanks.
Right. Right.
Pretty
very
good quality.
interesting.
It's
Very
fun.
interesting.
But
And I want
it's-
to say this too. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Tom,
no,
but
go.
But our women's basketball team last year at one point was ranked number 1 in the country. Had the NAIA Player of the Year in Stephanie Suarez, young lady who was on the Brazilian national team, could have played in the Olympics, but she had a knee injury. So that's the kind of the quality that we get. And when you talk about how can people see what we have going on over there, one, come to the games. It's a great experience. The gym is not a big arena. It's a nice small gym. So you're right there. The athletes, when we're talking about like Stephanie Suarez, 6'6", could dunk. We have on the men's basketball team 6'7", 6'8", 6'10". We've got big guys. Men's volleyball, I talked about it. Nolan Flexen, 6'10". These are big human beings.
heavens,
Yes,
I am
and
standing up and
amazing
looking up
athletes. We have, and Nolan can jump more than 3 feet off the ground. I mean, think about that. He touches 12 feet in the air. So the athleticism that they have and the capability they have, it's just so much fun to watch. And whether or not, if you can't come in, GoMustangs.com/watch. That's real simple. GoMustangs.com/watch. And then you'll be able to see all the games that we have that are coming up. Basketball, men's and women's, the volleyball, whatever it may be. Baseball. We've had players drafted into Major League Baseball and played at the big leagues coming from Masters University. So it's really exciting, and there's a lot going on athletically at Masters.
I love that you're heading up this program because I'm embarrassed to say I had no idea. Barb, did you know? And we've been in this community for a long time and had no idea. We knew Masters College was there, but that we're at that level. Right. At that level of sports, where we have a place.
Yeah, it isn't
right here in town,
though, that much.
Well, and there's let me be fair in that there have been a few years where the thought process at the university was, let's just kind of stay within our own world. Over here in Placerita Canyon, it's a nice, comfortable place. We're well protected. Let's just kind of stay here and do that. That's changing right now because we recognize the fact that we want to be partners with the residents of Santa Clarita, the people and the movers and shakers of Santa Clarita. We want to be able to be involved in the community. Our students are of the kind of character and of the high caliber type of person that they getting involved in the community, they want to be out there. They want to be involved. They want to be able to make a difference in the community, whether it's with the senior center, whether it's helping to clean up, whether it's volunteering at churches, schools, whatever it might be. That's what our students want to be able to do. And so what we as an institution are striving to be able to do for them is to be able to open up the world a little bit more for them, to be able to introduce them to the community of Santa Clarita and say, let's get involved, let's help out this community. We all know, all three of us, we've been here a long time. We all know this is a great community.
Oh.
Who's leaving? There are no hands going up in the studio right now. None of us are leaving. We love this place.
Absolutely.
And we want to be able to share this place, this community, with these students that come from all over the world and be able to get involved and plug in.
And some of them are older students, too.
There are some. We've got some graduate programs. For the most part, I would say that we skew to the younger side, to be honest.
Yes. That's understandable.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We were talking just yesterday about what is the typical student at the Masters University. First of all, her name is Hannah. It seems like there's a lot of Hannahs that all of a sudden started to come up. But these are people who are effervescent. They are people, if you will. They like to be involved with others.
Yes,
they aren't stuck on social media. Social media exists. That's real.
Yes.
But they like to be able to engage. They like to be able to, and that's why I say we have these students that want to be able to engage.
Yeah, they're positive people.
Absolutely.
Positive. And that's the type of person who is involved in this community. Mm-hmm. Mostly positive people.
That's right.
And when you get a depressed person, pretty soon that person is no longer depressed.
Or someone...
Because this community will help bring them up into what's going on here. And a lot is going on here.
There is a lot going on.
All the time.
And I thought that the direction you were going with that is that if someone who doesn't want to be involved is kind of forced to be involved or forced into being in a position, and no one really likes to be around someone like that as well. I mean, it's not good for that person and the rest of them around. That's not necessarily the case with the students that we attract. They are high character, and they become high quality students, mm-hmm. and then go on and become high-quality graduates that then can contribute to a community.
Involved people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And speaking about engagement, you said this weekend you've got a couple games coming up that we can go see as spectators.
Right.
Some practical questions. Mm-hmm. So, especially for the senior community, what is involved with attending an event at Masters? Is there... let's say handicap parking? Is it accessible? Are there some kind of health requirements from, remnants of the pandemic? When what's going on with Masters there?
It is very open. Yes, there are plenty of handicap parking. There's plenty of parking all around the MacArthur Center, which is where the basketball games will be this weekend on Saturday. There is it's easily accessible. There are no stairs that need to be climbed. Everything is just walk right in. Even when you walk into the gym, you may have to go up a couple of stairs to be able to find a seat in the bleachers. But that's certainly there's no climbing that needs to be done stairs wise just to get into the venue. So definitely quite accessible. In addition to the games that we have this weekend, and certainly other events that go on, for example, we have music, we have theater. There's lots of different events we have. This past Christmas, Dr. Paul Plew, who retired as the chairman of the music department, held again what he calls Come Christmas Sing. And it's a concert with a full orchestra. It was the choir, 100 strong in one case, the choir. It's just an amazing event, sold out completely, as it does every single year. So there are events like that as well. It's not just the athletics, but the music, the theater. The music program is world-renowned. They have performed at Carnegie Hall and the Lincoln Center. They have traveled all over the world on concert tours. So they are a world-renowned music program that tours extensively and puts on phenomenal shows.
I love it. So GoMustangs.com, watch.
That's for the sports side.
Will show us the sports side. But how do we get the events? Like all of the events? How do we know what's going on at Masters besides having you come back here at least once a month?
Well, all the schedules are on GoMustangs.com. So
Okay.
if you go onto that website, that brings up the sports page, and you can choose what sport you might be interested in. Baseball, actually, we're going to start next week at Herwalt Stadium, and plenty of seats covered. There's covers over the seats now. And you can check out the schedules. You can see who's coming to town. Azusa Pacific will be here on Tuesday, 2 o'clock, to play baseball in the first game of the season. So that's the best way to do it, because you can look at what your favorite sport might be. You can go through it. You may be a beach volleyball fanatic, and we have these beach volleyball courts now on campus. You did not know that, did you, Barbara?
No, I didn't. Oh, my goodness.
But we have beach volleyball now, and we are one of the top ranked in the country in beach volleyball. So that's the best recommendation that I can make. Go to GoMustangs.com. On there, you'll see on the drop-down menu, sports, and you can click on men's side, the women's side, does not matter. You'll be able to find what you like and find the schedules that they have coming up.
But I would imagine even if you just put up there Masters University, Santa Clarita, California, you'd get everything that would come up.
True, and the main website that we have is masters.edu. So masters.edu is the main website for the entire university. And from there, like you were saying, Barbara, you can go to athletics. You can go to the music department.
Yeah,
you can
everything.
go to the theater department to see what may be coming up. You can look at different programs and different disciplines that we have. The new things that we have, computer science and engineering. We haven't even touched on a lot of the new programs that we have.
Well, the next time you come, we will concentrate on programs,
Sounds good.
educational programs.
That sounds
Yeah,
good.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
All right, Dave Caldwell, Sports Information Directors at Masters University. Masters University, 18 sports programs,
That's a lot.
streaming at GoMustangs.com and the
/watch.
/watch. And it's accessible for, people need to get back out into the community. And this is a great way to be around collegiate sports.
It is. And by the way, you had asked the question too. Is there any restrictions because
Yeah,
of the
please.
pandemic? No.
Awesome.
There aren't any restrictions because of the pandemic.
Okay, great. Dave Caldwell, Sports Information Director at Masters University. I look forward to a new place to get my sports fix. You're listening to the Senior Hour at KHTS FM 98.1, AM 1220, and hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Polucki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And we've had two terrific guests today.
They made our job easy today.
Yes, they did.
So when you say welcome back to the Senior Hour, I want to welcome you back, Barb. I mean, how are you doing?
Well, from all intents and purposes, and according to Dr. Black, I'm doing extremely well.
Outstanding.
Especially for my age.
Yes, screw that age.
I'm still alive and
You're
kicking.
doing it extremely well, period. So, outstanding. It's so good to have you back in the studio.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm beginning to do more stuff away from home.
I love it. And it's great to have you
And
back here.
Thank you.
And we've had a great show, and I love having you here in the studio. You've been listening to the Senior Hour on AM 1220, KHTS FM 98.1, your hometownstation.com. Now go out and enhance your quality of life.